and I'm sure you're familiar with the major league system of having a farm. They call it a
Oh
farm,
yeah, the farm league. Yeah.
right? And so, like, if you were a minor league coach, what's your goal? Produce talent for the major leagues,
Yeah.
and win games.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to do both of those things. Well, a shift in mindset for me was like, okay, I'm gonna start thinking like a minor league baseball coach, like. And I'm just going to embrace this idea of turnover. Like, if I'm a minor league coach and I think I'm going to get to keep my players forever, I'm
Right.
disillusioned.
Yeah.
Or what if I'm a high school or a college coach and I think I'm going to keep my players for more than 4 years. Like, it's not possible because school's only 4 years. And
Right.
so, you have to embrace turnover. Well, in order to embrace turnover, like what things do you need to have in place, in order to embrace that idea?
Yeah, that is like, okay.
That's my my head exploding.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I hope you're having a great day. You're listening to the Service Business Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett. Today's episode is an exciting one. We're going to talk to Zach Thomas. He is, I've been talking to him for a few minutes since before recording, and I'm already just kind of blown away with the success and everything just in Zach's background. I mean, he has served our country, if you're listening to this in America. He served as an Airborne Ranger Infantry Officer before launching multiple companies, successful ones at that. Right now, he's currently the owner-operator of a Chick-fil-A franchise in Rockmart, Georgia. So big town of Rockmart. It's really cool to get to talk to Zach a few minutes beforehand. I said, let's stop. Let's go ahead and start recording because you're dropping too much gold here, like just bombs of it. So welcome to the show, Zach.
It's great to be here, Tersh. Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Absolutely. So today's episode, we're going to talk about growing leaders using the F.A.R.M strategy. So people understand, yes, we're in Georgia. We're in the South.
Yeah.
We do a little bit of farming, but you have a new book out, I say new book. You have a book out called Leader Farming. Can you tell us a little bit about leader farming, and then a little bit about your background and what led you to where you are today?
Sure. Well, thanks again for the opportunity to be here and just to share with your listeners. It is an honor. So for me, I grew up on a farm, and so farming is just kind of natural in my DNA, and just all the things that I learned about work ethic and business, and believe it or not, a lot of things that I obviously share in my book about business and being an entrepreneur, and so I attribute a lot of my success to having grown up on a farm. And I jokingly say sometimes, now I'm in a different kind of farming business. Some farmers grow corn, some grow potatoes. I grow leaders. That's what I do. So,
I like it.
Growing myself and growing others, that's really what, leader farming is all about. And so I still do live on a farm, and I have cows and chickens and goats and rabbits and donkeys and all that stuff.
Cool.
But that's not what leader farming is all about. So, my background, as you mentioned, I was in the military. I went to United States Military Academy, graduated in 1999, and was commissioned as a second lieutenant infantry officer, went to Ranger School, all that stuff. And my plan, if you'd asked me when I was growing up what I was going to do in life, I would have told you I was going to be a general in the Army. Like that was my plan. I went to West Point. I was going to graduate. I was going to be a general. That was the plan. And September 11th happened, and I ended up, long story short, I ended up getting pulled over to TRADOC unit, the Ranger School, and I did not get to go to combat. I didn't get to go off to Afghanistan or Iraq, and it was really kind of frustrating. I tell people, you understand this. You were in the military, but I tell people all the time, it's not that you want to go kill people, but it's like if you play football your whole life and your team goes to the Super Bowl, like you just want to go with them, right? And so that's the feeling that I had, and I didn't get to go. I did get to deploy in support of Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom at the Ranger School. We were training reconnaissance students, pulling them out of theater and training them in Germany and Italy. But I was just really kind of frustrated. And so I just began to ask questions, like, well, hey, obviously my plan was to be a general, but like I need to be a combat proven infantry officer, and that's just not working. And so I started looking at possibly some other options. And I had a mentor that kind of coached me into the idea of becoming a chaplain. And I thought, okay, that sounds good. Well, then I can be a general chaplain. Like I don't have to be a combat proven guy, to be a chaplain. So that was really kind of my goal. So I resigned my active duty commission, went in the chaplain candidate program, and was in seminary. I was working at a church. I wasn't making a lot of money. So I started thinking about, okay, well, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So let me just figure out, like, how can I start making money and to help supplement my church income. And I started a company called Ranger Coffee Company, which we ended up, it was crazy. So like literally one day I was sitting in an aircraft hangar and I thought, what if I could get more caffeine in one cup of coffee? I wouldn't have to pee as much.
There you go.
So we created a hyper-caffeinated blend of coffee. We ended up selling coffee all over the world. Ended up in Newsweek magazine, on Good Morning America, just incredibly successful, and very grateful for that. And then the economy crashed and people stopped buying expensive coffee. And then I started, okay, well, what's next? And I ran across a Chick-fil-A opportunity and amazingly got selected very, very quickly for that. And I tell you, my journey with Chick-fil-A though, like, so when I came on board, prior to Chick-fil-A, because I came straight out of the ministry. And so, but before that, being a Ranger instructor, and one of the things I talk about in leader farming is this pendulum effect of leadership. And so if you can imagine, all the way over here on this side, my leadership style was a command and control style leader, like put the fear of God in people.
Yeah.
It was a good day if I made somebody cry for their mother.
right.
And then coming out of the Ranger environment and swinging the pendulum all the way over to the other side, being a chaplain candidate. And it was like, my goal was literally just to help people. I developed this philosophy that if you just love everybody enough, they'll do the right thing. And honestly, that doesn't work very well in business. And so when I became a Chick-fil-A operator, I'd swung the pendulum all the way over to this side, and I had this philosophy, like, hey, Chick-fil-A is a Christian business, and what that term, and I was like, if I just love everybody enough, they'll do the right thing. And I got people toting chicken out the back door, stealing from me, taking advantage.
Really?
Yeah, and so I kind of knee jerk reacted, and I said, okay, fine, I can be your Ranger instructor.
We can go the other way here. Like I have experience with the other way here.
Yeah. So I quickly swung the pendulum all the way back to the other side, and and then all of a sudden, I got my team members are having this kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde experience of a leader, and I'll never forget. I overheard one of my leaders one day say, I wonder which Zach we're going to get today.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, that's not good. That's not good.
That's tough.
And so that's really, I talk about in my book, this finding this balanced approach to leadership. And that's really, before we get into breaking down the F.A.R.M, but that's really that first part of it is where I found like that balance where the pendulum comes to rest in the center. And I found like I can be, really a good leader without having to be that jerk, and that command and control style leader, but also without having to be a pushover and be passive.
So in chaplain training, do they train everyone to be like the most caring and compassionate person in the world? Like I've talked to several chaplains. When I was in the Air Force and I was in training at Herbert Field, like I'd seen the chaplain. There were days where I needed to go see the chaplain because I dug a hole and then filled the hole in, dug a hole over there, and I had like almost to my breaking point. And like I visited, and every time I ever talked to the chaplain, they're like like a psychiatrist, like they're just like you know like the most caring and compassionate person in the world, whereas I'm used to my ti just telling me like, rub some dirt in it, get out,
Yeah.
put your face
Yeah.
in the dirt. And I'm like, it's completely different, opposite people. I mean, I don't know if that was just my chaplain or if that's something they train in chaplain school.
Well, I didn't finish chaplain school. I ended up
Okay.
resigning, before I finished everything and became a Chick-fil-A franchisee. But yeah, obviously, it's faith-based. And
Yeah.
so, based on scripture and everything, I mean, trying to model after, you know, um, Christ and treating people with honor, dignity, and respect. And so, yeah, I mean, for the most part, that's we're trying to be that person to the soldier or the airman or the sailor. So yeah, for the most part, that's part of the DNA of a chaplain.
So tell me about the experience becoming an operator of a Chick-fil-A. It's it because it's a tough one. I mean, is it tell me like kind of what the odds are that you're going to get into that.
Yeah, so I recently heard a statistic that it's 30 times harder to get selected to be a Chick-fil-A franchisee than to get into Harvard,
Yeah, that's
uh,
crazy.
which is
That's
crazy.
that's so intense.
Yeah,
Like and that makes total sense too. And um because of like the amount of Chick-fil-A's obviously versus like Harvard, you're going to get in every 4 years or well, maybe 4 year rotation, maybe 5 or
yeah.
10 or 15 year rotation. But um so once you are an operator, does that do, do you stay an operator until like forever, or do you have to meet standards and you can be kicked out as an operator? I'm just wondering. So like whenever you came in and you swung the pendulum completely different direction, um, did you have a lot of people walk off from the job? And
Oh yeah.
if that okay, so when that happened, did it did it look negatively upon you to the other operators or the higher ups in Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, so we are just now a little over 50 years old as a franchised,
Yeah.
company. And so, there's operators that are out there that have been doing this for, 30, 40 years. And
Hmm.
it's really just now kind of becoming a question like, do we, because we don't have a retirement package, right?
Right.
And so, it ends up it's a pretty crucial topic right now. It's like these guys have been around 40 years.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's time to step away. And some of them are becoming pretty irrelevant. Like they refuse to use a smartphone, and it's like that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
and but for the most part, like there's no like set time for how long you're an operator. And so
Yeah.
I think as long as you're relevant and as long as your business is healthy and growing, you know, I think that their hope and goal is that at some point you would decide, hey, it's time for me to
Yeah.
turn the franchise back over to Inc. and retire. And
With
so
that, can you gift it to your kids? Yeah, I
no,
didn't think so
yeah.
they didn't even allow that. Like they didn't allow like their kids just to come right into the company, did they?
Yep. Correct. Yeah. So yeah, our franchise agreement is way different than most other
Yeah. So I thought.
franchise opportunities. So essentially it's it's a profit sharing, deal.
Hmm.
And I own the liability. Like if you walked in and slipped and broke your neck,
Right.
I own that.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't, I don't really have equity in my business. And so, for me, that's one of the reasons why I'm just yeah, I'm not trying to make money doing this other stuff that I'm doing,
Yeah.
because I'm fully focused on my business. But really, honestly, like what I'm doing now is helping me become a better leader in my business. And as I help other, you know, the phrase, like, you know, the best way to learn is to teach, right? And
Yep.
so for me, honestly, like that's what really attracts me to what I'm doing is that as I teach and as I share and as I write and as I, you know, on podcasts and things like that, like I get ideas and things that I can go back and apply to my business and help my people grow. And honestly, it's making my business better, and it's making the overall brand of Chick-fil-A better. And so at some point, you know, if I decided to, hey, I'm gonna step away from, you know, the franchise deal and go off and do my own thing, like,
Yeah.
you know, I could, you know, I've kind of
You're
built my
you're
reputation to do that.
right, and your identity is not attached to Chick-fil-A. Like
Correct.
you're not Chick-fil-A. So like if you wanted to go do something else, you're able to self-sustain without having Chick-fil-A right there. So I like that. I mean that's me 100%. Like with us rebranding and going through things, people are like, "What? Like the penguin? Like we all know the penguin." It's like you see the penguin, you automatically know, Tersh and Julie. Like yes, but the penguin is only a year old. So
Right.
let's refocus on something else. Like and it's nice being able to do that and um, having the ability to go do other things and not have to be an operator your entire life because that's what you are. So, but you're an out of the box kind of thinker and leader anyways. And some of your ideas and philosophies, they've been used in other franchises or other parts of Chick-fil-A, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So my book, Leader Farming, was endorsed by Tim Tasopoulos, the president of Chick-fil-A, and Cliff Robinson. He's the CEO at the time, was the COO, and David Salyers, the chief marketing officer. And so, you know, this concept, this idea of leader farming and growing others to grow the business,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a lot of it's really kind of a mindset shift that Chick-fil-A would like for a lot of operators to adopt, because even if I'm not developing other Chick-fil-A franchisees, if I'm just launching leaders and helping them grow and become the best version of themselves, then ultimately, you know, they know that I have their best interest at heart, and then they're going to perform at a higher level, which is ultimately going to impact my business. And so, yeah.
So like, but Chick-fil-A is kind of known to be the perfect people to hire. Like they're the best at hiring the perfect person. And what you have is you're like bringing something on top of that. Is that kind of correct in saying?
Yeah, I think, you know, we attract probably the cream of the crop for the food service business,
Yeah.
and you know, overall, without actually throwing out real numbers,
Yeah. Yeah.
'cause I don't know that they want me to do that, but you
No,
know,
you're good.
the industry average turnover for a quick service is very high. I mean, it's in
Oh, I can imagine.
150% roughly. You know, when you include McDonald's and
Yeah.
other
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah,
places
totally.
like that. But, you know, Chick-fil-A, ours is significantly lower than that. And then mine is, you know, my individual turnover is like, you know, roughly 20% below, you know, the Chick-fil-A, you know, chain wide turnover average. And I attribute that a lot to, you know, my personal branding and my own employer brand that I've created, you know, for my team and attracting talent. And, you know, the irony is, and we can get into this as we break
Yeah.
down the farm analogy, but for me, acknowledging the seasons, the A stands for acknowledging the seasons and embracing turnover. And this idea of embracing turnover goes back to, I was literally driving down the road one day. I was driving past McEachern High School up here in Marietta, and they have a huge, beautiful stadium. They have a huge endowment fund that funds their athletic program. And I was driving by. I just was thinking about the coach of the football team, and he was a friend of mine. And I thought, you know, he has to embrace turnover whether he likes it or not.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So every year he loses some of his best players.
Yeah.
And then every year he gains new players, freshmen. And so his seniors graduate and he gets new freshmen. So what are the things that he has to do to create a sustainable program? And then, I started thinking, thought of the next level. I'm like, okay, well, college, same thing. Like if you're a college football coach and you think you're going to get to keep your players for more than 4 years, you're disillusioned.
Right.
Yeah. So then I started thinking of the next level. Like what's the next level? Well, think about like for us here in Georgia, the Atlanta Braves, they have farm team system, and we have the Gwinnett Braves, and right here, right up the street from where I live, the Rome Braves. And I started thinking about, well, what if I was a farm team coach? And I love that analogy because it goes well with my farming background. And that actually came years ago. The farm team system came about from them building these teams down on in small towns, and the major league players would say, oh, they're growing players down on the farm like corn. And so that was just a great analogy. But when you think about a farm team coach, like what's his goal? He has two main goals: is to create talent for the major leagues and to win games. And so what happens is that as he produces talent for the major leagues, he has to release them. Like he's got to consciously embrace turnover. And so he's producing talent for the major leagues, but he's also attracting talent because he's producing talent for the major leagues, right?
Right.
And so it becomes this kind of like self-perpetuating system of attracting and retaining talent. Like people actually want to stay longer because they know that you have their best interest at heart, and they know that you're helping them get to where they want to be. And so that's really what I've created with my brand of leader farming. And I shared with you earlier, last year alone, there were 77,000 expressions of interest to become a Chick-fil-A franchisee.
Yes.
And of those, they selected about 50 new franchisees.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. And one of those was this guy right here on the cover of my book. His name is Zach as well. No relation, but Zach. And I hired him when he was in high school, and he was the fourth operator to come out of my my business in less than less than a decade.
Wow.
And that's not the norm. Like there's a lot of operators out there that have never even produced a single operator in their 30-year career. And so for me, I just made that decision one day. I was going to be like a farm team coach. Like that was a mindset shift for me.
It's just like head blows up. Like it's totally like, so we complain about our turnover rate as a service industry. Like, oh, you can't keep a good service tech. Like, well, blame it on leadership. Like, oh, they have better benefits over there. They're going over there for $1 more an hour. And, but then you think about like, literally a high school coach, like every year they're having to train somebody. So every 4 years, the guy that you spent all that time, effort, and energy, that girl that plays softball, that's just your killer softball player, she just golden glove, like gone. Like every couple years, it's just gone. And so you're literally like, you could be the state champs, but if you don't have a program in place, because that you had 2 or 3 star athletes, they became state champs, then you're nobody.
Yeah.
But if you have that, and then you see these other teams that are always there. They're always at the state championships. They're always there.
And how do they do it?
Right. Exactly.
That's the question.
With new talent, like they could be freshman talent, and they're just at state championship level. And like, geez, okay, we can end this podcast interview. That's it. Like, no, we got to figure out how this happens. So let's dive into farm. So it's not just growing great leaders using a farm strategy, like we're gonna cornbread feed these guys. This is farm, acronym. So we're gonna break it down, and I guess let's get started with that.
Yeah, sure. So the F, which we've already kind of talked about a little bit, is freedom leading. And so it's this idea of finding that balanced leadership approach And so almost every leader out there could tell you whether they are naturally wired to be that command and control style leader or that, passive leader. And I actually, so at the end of the podcast, we talk about this, but I've created a specific website for your listeners, and there's a little free quiz on there. They can take to help them kind of determine whether they are that, naturally wired to be command and control style or passive.
Yeah.
And so, just finding that balanced leadership approach. And so for me, you divide leadership into several different pillars. Okay. So first, there's like your leadership style. And so what is your leadership style? Is it that command and control style leader, or is it more passive? And so just imagine these four pillars and then the spectrum. Okay. And so there's that whole spectrum. Well, then you got your leadership style. Well, there's leadership method. So if you are a command and control style leader, what's your method of leadership? Like, how are you accomplishing what you're accomplishing? Well, it's through control and discipline. Like you are controlling people, and people are afraid of you. They're
micromanage them.
Yep. And disciplining them. Right.
Yeah.
And so then the other end of the spectrum, the passive like style of leadership, how are you actually accomplishing anything? Well, honestly, it's kind of like luck, right?
Yeah, right. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, it's like, they have freedom with absolutely no accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way you're going to get results is if that person is mature enough to actually
self-motivate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other side, like the only way you're going to get results is to actually to loosen, the collar and say, I'm going to trust you and I'm going to give you freedom. And so you got leadership style, you got leadership method, and then you actually got, the follower motivation. So like, what's their motivation? So if you're command and control, what are they motivated by? Fear, right?
Right.
Like fear of losing their job, fear of getting cussed out, fear of getting screamed at, whatever. That's really, so it's all external pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you're that passive style leader, what are they motivated by? Well, honestly,
it's gotta have to be something like external, like internal to the person, unless it's money motivated. Like, so the more I work, the more I can generate revenue or something like that. That's going to be about it.
Yep. So it essentially has to be an internal, intrinsic, style, some motivation that's coming from within. Like that's really the only thing that's going to get them to do the right thing, because they just know it's the right thing to do. And so they're going to do it, so that's that spectrum. Right. And so then the next column there is basically, what's the actual behavior that results from this style leadership? Well, if you've got command and control style leader, control and discipline, fear, it just results in temporary behavior modification. It's literally people just doing whatever you want them to do when you're standing there watching, or when you've got something in place, right?
Unless you have the ability to break someone down and rebuild them back up.
Yeah.
It's definitely very temporary.
Yep. But then the other thing, what does it lead to in the individual? It leads to entitlement. It leads to like, okay, well, if a passive leader is not really holding them accountable, then they just like, well, I'm just entitled to my paycheck, and I'm entitled to just get paid if I just show up. I don't really have to perform. I don't really have to do anything. And it does. It unfortunately leads to a motivation of entitlement. And so then, what I talk about is finding that balanced leadership approach. So for me, I'm naturally wired as a task-oriented, somewhat command and control style leader. So I had to give myself perspective to kind of see the big picture and how I could actually hold people accountable and establish boundaries without being a jerk. And so I created this thing called a point system. And I just assign points to, like, you show up late to work, it's 2 points. If you are this many minutes late, it's 2 points. If it's this many minutes late, it's 5 points. Or if you don't wear your uniform, it's this many points. And so I have this whole list of things that are points. And then I essentially say, well, if you get this many points, you get suspended, and you get this many points, you can't work here anymore. And
so, but so the feedback I hear on something like that, which I love that system, is um, the shortage of labor talent, labor pool, and like, would you actually fire someone for that? Like once they reach those points, I mean, is it because it's kind of scary? Because like for us, we have a hard time hiring new people that are qualified,
Yep.
personality wise and everything else. Like you have that, no, what to expect. Like you have that reputation of being a great company to work for. Whereas
Yeah.
like a new company, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go work there. But then as soon as they are there, then they're like, okay, they're going to fire them if they don't do all this other stuff. And these other people are like, oh, you can fog a mirror. Yes, you can stay here forever. you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously it's two different companies, but do you ever hear that feedback of like, I'm afraid to fire someone because I don't know if I can replace them?
Yeah. In fact, I had that conversation yesterday with another operator.
Yeah.
And it's honestly like you just, so for me, it's tough to make that decision up front. Like I'm going to hold people accountable. But I say this all the time, and it's in the book. But it's, the point of the point system is not to point you out, but to keep you on point till you see the point of the point system. And so let me unpack that. And so it can't just be, let's put this draconian point system in place, right? It's
Mhm.
got to be like, I'm trying to coach people and mentor people to see the purpose of the point system. Like
Mhm.
the purpose of this thing is not to fire you. It's
Mhm.
to help you see the big picture. It's to help you see that, like, I, I was out processing a team member one time, 16-year-old kid, and he quit, and all of his siblings had worked for me. And I was out processing him, interviewing him on the way out. And I said, hey, his name was Joel. I said, Joel, why are you leaving? And he said, and this was in my season of passivity, because
Mhm.
I didn't want to be that jerk anymore.
Mhm.
And he said, Zach, your grace to one person is punishment to the rest of the team.
Oh wow! Like, oh yeah,
Oh my
boom!
gosh.
like,
Yeah. Like you just, and so for me, like as a, so I'm naturally wired to
Mhm.
really be someone that will hold people accountable, but
Mhm.
I didn't want to be that guy. Like I thought, I
Mhm.
can't be that jerk. And so I swung the pendulum all the way over to the other side, and I'm just this, I just keep forgiving people over and over and over again, but I'm punishing everybody else.
Everybody else.
And so it's like, for me, for perspective standpoint, I had to see, okay, like if I allow this to happen, I'm actually creating a culture in my organization that says this is okay. And then it actually expands and grows, and then more people do it. And because there's no accountability,
Mhm.
and I'm punishing everyone else. If he shows up 10 minutes late every single day, then I'm basically having the rest of my team has to work twice as hard
Yeah.
for that 10
Yeah.
minutes because
Yeah.
he's not there, and I'm punishing everybody else. So that broader perspective is what really helps. So
Yeah. That is. Yeah. Man, my head's starting to hurt here. It's so much info. Like man, it's the point system. Did you make that public or was that a private? Like, did you keep like a whiteboard written somewhere? Like, okay, these people have this many points type thing.
yeah, so
I've heard of
what,
people doing that, both positive and negatively. Like, okay, so they gave out points for positive actions. So if you had an average
yeah,
ticket price, or maybe you met these goals, then you got this many points, and that would be displayed as like a competition internally,
yeah,
so people would compete to do that. But then the other way would be like a competition to keep the lowest point score,
yeah.
for negative stuff.
So the negative stuff is kept confidential. They
Okay.
they do get they sign a document understanding they've received a certain amount of points. It is kept confidential. We do have ways for them to earn points off,
Oh, okay.
and that's in all of the ways that we do that is they have, they'll read a book, and
Oh,
tell us
so
what.
it's like beneficial, like their personal education type. Oh yeah, I like that.
And so we're challenging them, like, look, if you're in jeopardy of losing your job because of your points, then obviously you need to grow and develop as an individual and as a person. So like, hey, read this book, and then write a report on it. Like, it's like a 1-page report. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, what did you learn, and how do you plan to apply what you learned? And so that will remove a certain amount of points, and it shows that they care, they want to keep their job, and at the same time they read something that they learned that helped them grow as an individual, that will hopefully help prevent them from earning points in the future.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Golden nuggets. More of them.
Yeah. So I have an example of the point system in the book there. It
Okay.
lays out, what we did, but that's, just really honestly, like finding that balanced leadership approach, because, so I need to be able to walk up to somebody and put my arm around them and say, hey, I love you. I care about you, but you can't work here anymore. And here's why,
Yeah.
without yelling and screaming,
Yeah.
and cussing them out,
The emotions just gone. It takes the
Yep.
emotion out of the relationship. I had to do that recently, and I was really sad because this guy, man, I love this kid to death. He was young.
Yep.
He was just too immature. Didn't take things serious. But like, he had the personality, the driest sense of humor, which I found hilarious. And
Yeah.
I was like, man, I really don't want to let you go, but we've talked about these things several times, and we can't come to an agreement to where you can make this work. And so, like, I have to let you go. But it was really like, I love you as a person, but
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
just can't do it right now. And so it stinks, but at the same time, like you said, it takes emotion out of the equation.
Yep. Yep. And, for that person that's naturally wired as, passive and just like, I don't want to come across as being mean or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like that statement of grace to you is punishing the rest of the team. Like, that helps them hold other people accountable. Be like, look, I'm sorry, but
The
if
rest
I
of the
just let
team.
you, yep. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't choose you over the
Yeah.
other 99 people that work for me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was big. So that's really the F, in farm. Acknowledging seasons, embracing turnover. We went into that, the embracing turnover part a good bit early, but I will want to touch on this, the acknowledging the seasons. So I'm a proponent of what I call seasonal growth mindset. And so, we talk about, there's a lot of books out there about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And I think that we miss a lot in that. And for me, growing up on a farm and thinking about the seasons, for me, I actually have adopted this growth mindset of a seasonal growth mindset. Whereas you think about in nature, there are 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. And every single season has its purpose, right? And so you look outside right now, the trees, they have no leaves. And if, I'm looking out a window right now, and the perspective is that tree is dead.
Right.
But it's not. Like, there were things that needed to fall off and fall to the ground and die and decay, and then produce nutrients for future growth. And so right now, even though it doesn't look like that tree's growing, there's stuff going on underneath the surface. The roots are going deeper, and there's things that are necessary. So for us as leaders and as an organization, like, if we feel like that our organization, like, every quarter has to be better than the quarter before, and we just create, like, there's got to be a perpetual harvest, right? Like, we've always got to be in harvest season. Everything's got to be better. We're losing some things, because some of our greatest opportunity for growth, both personally and for our business, comes in seasons of adversity, like winter, right?
Yeah.
And so if we get so fixated on trying to get out of winter, if we get so fixated on a downward trend of sales growth, and we're not really paying attention to, okay, maybe we needed to lose those clients, or maybe we needed, maybe this is an opportunity for us to reflect as a business. Okay, what can we do, or what can we learn from this? And so, or even individually, as a leader. And so, taking that seasonal growth approach to mindset, to seasonal growth mindset approach to both leadership and business is huge. And
that's like that. Yeah, that is massive, because you can also use that that time of lack of growth, or when you're learning, which several things. So you can learn what didn't work, and then you can implement a new policy and procedure to make that work better in the future, because you're taking that time during this down spiral, this downtime to actually measure out and figure out what went wrong, getting rid of those toxic clients and those toxic customers. The whole 80-20 rule,
Mhm.
20% of your clientele is taking up 80% of your time, but also generating 20% of your revenue.
Yep.
So if you took the opposite approach, where you got the people that take up 20% of your time but generate 80% of your revenue, and then focus more on those people, it is painful. I did this myself with the people that took up 80% of my time. I was like, oh my gosh, like I got rid of those people, and then I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm not doing anything anymore. But then generated more revenue,
Uh,
not having to deal with those people all the time. And it's hard for a business owner, especially a small business owner just getting started, that to tell somebody no, or to go away, or we're not going to work for you anymore. But at the same time, like, if you can focus on your avatar, if you can focus on the perfect person or the perfect client, or making those people happy and doing what they want you to do, then you grow your business tremendously. And I love that. I love that whole thought process.
yeah, I'm grateful this is video based. I know that all the podcast listeners don't get to see the video side of it, but if you can imagine a sine wave, right?
Mm-hmm.
That even though there's, I say there's spring, summer, fall, and then winter.
Yeah.
Spring, summer, and it continues to grow. Like it goes up, even though there's a dip for winter. There's this continuous growth. And so, again, just think about it like a tree. Like, even though you look outside right now and it looks it looks dead, it looks
Yeah.
dormant, there's still growth going on, right? It's just not visible growth. And there's things going on underneath the surface that are necessary. All in a vineyard, right? I grow muscadines on my farm as well, and I'm not very great about pruning my vines,
Yeah.
but there are things that need to be pruned off. And so for us as leaders, it's like, hey, what are the things that I need to stop doing
Yeah.
that are preventing me from really growing at the level that I need to grow? And those are things that need to be pruned, need to be cut off, and are in the case of a tree, fall to the ground and die and decay, and provide nutrients for future growth.
Yeah.
So
My coach has this little box, this cube, and it's start, stop, keep doing, and start, stop, keep doing something else. I'm having a brain fart, but that's one of those things. Like, every time you go into a meeting, it's like, okay, like, start, stop, keep doing.
Yep.
So, like, what do you need to stop doing? Like, what do you need
Right.
to stop doing in this meeting? What do you need to stop doing as a leader, as a person, an
Yep.
individual? And send it off to somebody else to do it. If it's something that's just a time suck for you,
Yeah.
just send it off to somebody else. But yeah, that's like, everything you're saying there is just, it's pure gold. And I love that the whole thing, because I have one friend who every year he lets go of the bottom 10% of his company. So so it's like a race not to be at the bottom 10% of the company, because he's going to cut the bottom 10% of the company. And so it's like, wow, like, you're not kidding. Like, you're pruning every single year.
Yep.
And so you're getting rid of that bottom 10%. And somebody that, like, might have been in the top 80% one year, 5 years from now, they might be in the bottom 10%. So that's really a crazy thought process, but I like it. It's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks. So, I don't know how much more time we have. I want to be sensitive to that. So
Yeah, no, we're good. Like, if honestly, I think that we should cut off, like, M, so that the readers can get a full digest of that. Maybe just tell us what it is, but we're not going to dive into M.
yeah. So,
Let's go to R.
So R,
Mhm.
risk taking,
Risk taking.
risk taking and investing in people. And so, honestly, like, I believe that investing in people and taking a risk in people is it requires a lot as a leader, and it is a risk, and so I think the famous Zig Ziglar quote, like, what's worse
Yeah.
than, you know, investing in people and they leave? It's not investing in people and they stay, right?
Yes.
And so that's really the goal behind, thinking about, as a leader, I'm gonna take a risk. I'm gonna invest in people, and I'm gonna help them grow and become the best version of themselves. And
Mhm.
even if they leave,
Mhm.
it's gonna help me grow my business, because if they know that I have their best interests at heart, if they know that I'm helping them become the best version of themselves, then they're not only gonna produce great results for my business, but they're gonna leave a trail of high performance long after they leave. They're gonna help me recruit talent. Like, they're gonna
Mhm.
tell people, hey, this is a great place to work. Like, you should check it out. And
Mhm.
so it becomes, again, this self-perpetuating thing that helps me, grow my business. And so, a lot of people hesitate in really taking that risk of investing in people. But honestly, I believe it's the only path to true freedom as an entrepreneur
Mhm.
and as a leader, is to take that risk, to trust people and invest in people and help them grow and become the best version of themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I have a quick story on that. So we, Julie, my wife and I, we are wholeheartedly, we believe in that 100%. And we have a dispatcher that was with us last year, and we invested a lot in him and just in as a person in general also. And uh, so he was a radio DJ prior to coming on board with us, and as a call, basically answered calls and sent the technicians where they need to go from point A to point B. Um, but he left where he was at, or the company shut down, but his dream was always to run a radio station completely. And an opportunity opened up about an hour south of us in Brunswick, and uh, to run the radio station there. And I point blank told him, he came to me and said, "Hey, look, like, you do everything for me." Like, that's the type of person he is. "Man, you've done so much great things for me." And I'm like, "Okay, Mark, chill out, Mark." And he was like, "But I got this opportunity and I don't know what to do. I'm so torn. I don't know if I should take this job. It is my dream job. It's running 3 radio stations, not just one."
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay, Mark, look at me. If you don't take this job, I'm going to fire you. So
Make it easy for him.
take the
Yeah.
job."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Man, like, I don't even know what to say." And like, he was like, "This is like the best thing ever," all this other stuff. And I'm not an affectionate person, and he is a very affectionate person. And so it's like really this funny dynamic. And so, like, now he sends us clients, he sends us people. Like, there's an event in Savannah, he's like, "Hey, make sure that Tersh and all those guys are the ones that are doing the air conditioning for this stuff." And like, he's that person. Like, he just is our ultimate cheerleader. He's a fanatic for our company, because of the way that we've treated him before, during, and after. And just making that investment in him and his family. Like, I mean, just little stupid things that just makes people know that you thinking about them. Like, their anniversary, him and his wife's anniversary, we sent them like edible arrangement, yeah,
Right.
edible
Right.
to the house. And they're like, "Wow." Like, and then Mark's wife says, "Well, Mark's gonna have to step it up. Your boss sent us flowers and edible arrangement, and you didn't send us any. So, Mark, you're in trouble." But it was just hilarious because that's just their type personality.
Yeah.
And so just spending that little bit of time, like, we have a calendar on the board on the wall that just has everybody's birthday, their kid's birthday, their spouse's birthdays,
Yeah.
anniversaries and stuff like that, and just investing in those people and their time. Time is a massive investment. Is something that we
Hmm.
all value a lot. And just taking a few minutes and handwriting a note to someone, I think, is a
Yeah.
huge investment in someone. But also education investment. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, like you said, Zig Ziglar saying, and it's very, very true, because, like, not only, so the scary thing as a service business owner is, not only spending the money on a service expert or a service technician and them leaving, but also spending $3,000 to $5,000 sending them to a school that they get absolutely nothing from. And it's like the technician's ticked off. I'm ticked off. Like everybody's ticked off. And it's like just one of those challenges. Thankfully, we've found great training and everything, but that's also a very real fear
Mhm.
as a service business owner. But taking that time and that risk in investing in those people, and like my lead guy, he gets offered jobs all the time, but he's like, no, I have
Yeah,
no reason to. I'm not going to do side work. I'm not going to come do, I'm not going to come to work for you full time. These guys invest in me all the time. They pay top dollar and they invest in me constantly. And
that's great.
and it's something I wouldn't bat an eye at. If he asked me, hey, can you send me to so and so to this training? I say, yeah, man, as long as we have everything covered, as
Yep,
long as the clients are taken care of, as long as we have all this stuff covered,
yep,
let's pay for the school. Let's get you taken care of.
yep.
And I think that as as that culture, as we get known more for being that way, then we will attract even more talent. I mean, we get applications probably twice a week right now, which is kind of unheard of in the trade industry.
Yeah.
So I wholeheartedly believe that it's because the word is out that it's a good place to work. And it's not, the thing about it is not everybody fits. Like we've had people come and work with us that we don't mesh well with. They don't
Hmm.
mesh well with us. Like they don't. We are we're the opposite of micromanagement, but we're not like we don't do we're not the extreme pendulum where we'll let
Right.
you like completely fail. We track metrics like wholeheartedly, like track them and you watch them and you see them every day. We notify you, but you're not micromanaged either, so you can fail.
Hmm.
You need some self motivation, because once you get 30 to 50 service techs, you know, you have to have some self motivation or
Right.
money motivation or something like that. But uh, I think that um, it's not everybody. It doesn't fit everybody's style. But I am so thankful for you to coming on the podcast today, because the things that you've even said today are, I mean, it's pure gold. And I got to pick up a copy of your book, because I definitely like, I want to dive even deeper into all of this. Like I'm taking notes, but I don't have to 100% because I'll get it transcribed too. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, for people that want to connect with you, pick up your book, learn
Yeah.
more about you, what's the best way for that to happen?
Yeah. So thanks for asking that. I created a special website for your listeners. It's
Okay.
leaderfarming.com/SBM, and it's live now. So if you go there, there's basically three offers at the bottom. There's that quiz that I told you could take for free. Just put in your email address. It signs you up for my blog, but it gives you the opportunity to just determine whether you're naturally wired for results or relationships. And then there is an offer for just pay shipping a copy of my book,
Sweet.
paperback copy of my book. So $5.99, and I'll send you a copy of Leader Farming. And then there's this the last little thing offer there is a group that I'm starting. It's going to be once a month. Right now, I'm going to do it once a month. I'm calling it the Leader Farm, and it's just this opportunity for a Zoom conversation with me once a month. And anybody that wants to sign up for that, that's free as well. And so, yeah, there you go.
I like it. That's really awesome. I'm stoked. I'm going to get a copy of the book ASAP. The With this leader, the group with the Leader Farm, is there ever going to be a time when you're going to say, "Hey, you need help becoming a better leader or developing leaders? I'm going to come coach you."
Yeah, there may be a point in time where, I actually,
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
yeah, yeah. I was an operator coach for Chick-fil-A, and
Okay.
so they actually paid me to go coach new operators, and they'd pay for my
Wow.
travel. They'd send me there, and
Nice.
I actually decided to stop doing that because I have 7 children, And
Go you. I thought 4 was a lot, but 7. Go you.
yeah, my youngest is 7 months old. So I'm just in a
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm in a season of life where I'm not going to travel that much, and but I want to do this Zoom thing where I'm going to, if people want to ask me questions, they can submit a form ahead of time. And then based on the order that the questions come in, I'll unmute them and we'll have a conversation, and everybody else can just listen in if they
Yeah.
want,
That's what I was going to ask. Can
and
you just
yep,
come be a fly on the wall
yep,
and just
yep,
listen?
you can. And that's the goal. And so my goal would be that, there's 100 people, on the Zoom and just
Mhm.
listening in, and, we'll be answering questions, and so I'll be, kind of coaching virtually
Mhm.
through that. And then at some point, it may turn into something else. But right now, I just want to offer what I've learned to others. And I'm just incredibly grateful for, my journey, that I survived it. And, and
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm still on it. But,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
learned a lot that I can share with others and help other people.
Cool, Zach. Well, thank you again for coming on the show and sharing all of this with us. You didn't have to do that, and it's even if you didn't do anything but listen to this episode, there was so much golden nuggets in this episode that if you implement those alone, I could see so much success happening from that. But go pick up a copy of the book. Do you have it for sale anywhere other?
It is available on Amazon.
Okay.
You can get it in Kindle version. I'm recording the audio after the first of the year.
Okay.
And so it should be available sometime in the first quarter of 2020. And then, there's a hardback version that's available on Amazon. And then the soft cover is free plus shipping via the dedicated website.
Awesome, man. Thank you again for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Obviously, go to the link on the website and fill out all of that, and get a blog. I mean, get signed up for the blog post. Can't lose based off the conversation that we've had today. I mean, it's just going to be pure gold. So if you have any questions, also if you're listening and you're not already connected, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. All of the platforms at Tershblisset is my handle. And if you're listening to this on a mobile device, take a screenshot of it and share it in your Instagram stories and tag me in it. I'd love to connect and be virtual friends over Instagram. But anyways, with that being said, have a wonderful, wonderful week. And we will talk again soon on the Service Business Mastery Podcast, the podcast focused on service business owners, managers, and technicians considering becoming business owners themselves. Have a wonderful week.